I address myself to some of the global shapers, and the global shapers is a World Economic Forum community of leaders between 20 and 30 years old. Who would like to take the floor? Yeah, okay. Can you introduce yourself and where you are from?
Good morning, everybody. Amanda Mate from the Global Shapers, Durban, Hub, South Africa. Thank you to our president for addressing us this morning. Thank you, Professor Schwab. Malal, as a leader, how do you begin to engage a youth in terms of skills transferring leadership skills? It's often said that as a youth we lack the ability to lead. We walk out of university with degrees, ambitious to be managers, ambitious to be CEOs, but we fail to understand leadership skills. In your understanding, what are the ways in which you can transfer your ability to lead to the youth of South Africa?
Well, thank you very much for the question, and thank you very much for the opportunity. Well, I think we are aware that in the last 23 years, we have worked on the efforts to skill the youth in many ways, and we've been doing this together. The government, the business, and the labor formations in particular, as well as civil society. The emphasis in our policies has not left the issue of skilling our people, not just the youth, as well as those who are already in the industry, to reskill, but skill those who might have been not skilled before. Because there is a realization that without skills, it would be difficult to grow the economy. I think the interventions that have been made by the economic meltdown, etc., have played their role. But we have tried to deal with this matter. In our country, we have also tried to look at the system, the education system, because in the past, the education system was, in a sense, faulty and distorted, because education was looked at from a racial point of view. Hence, now we can talk about the lack of skills whilst we have huge numbers. That also influenced the clear identification of important skills, which we've been referring to as scarce skills. Because in the past, the majority of the population was not skilled to deal with the broader kind of economy that we are dealing with now. These are the challenges that we are dealing with, and that's why we have emphasized our work of education. Education is priority number one in our country. That is partly an attempt to address that problem of skills. Because the fact that you have a number of young people who have qualifications or perhaps degrees, but not very difficult to employ, is because those skills were just done education in general, not with a specific plan and specific focus on skills that are necessary for the economy to grow. It was just a question of educating people. And you could have heard more pastors, and yet we need very few pastors, bigger congregations. But because it was not highly planned, you could have more of them. You could have more churches. Of course, it's important to prepare for our future, but we have to deal with the reality here. That has been the difficulty that face us, which talks to our history, but it talks to the challenge that we are faced with today. And that's why the question of skilling has been broadened. And I think we might have also add a little bit when we came in with colleges in terms of the importance of colleges, etc., which we did not emphasize on. The fact that we've got a huge population with not enough tertiary and college kind of places, it talks to our history. So that is what we are trying to address today in many ways. That is why, for an example, rather than just an education department, we created basic education department as well. It's part of addressing that problem to us, that you have young people with qualifications, but not easily employable. But of course, that is also, in a sense, exacerbated by the fact that with the development of the economy and technology, it means it's not just education in general. We've got to deal with very specific things that deals with technology now that the economy is developing in a particular way. That is why, for an example, the matter of us addressing the fourth industrial revolution, to us is a critical one. Because if we've got that backlog, it means we've got bigger challenges. We all have to realize this. We also have to deal with the matter of us, which we are discussing, that the young people who are coming in, waiting and looking for jobs, the private sector, because of technology, demands experience that we did not get necessarily. And the unions are not happy if you say, let us create a bridge between the young one coming in, getting the experience to join the industry, and they feel uncomfortable about it. So these are matters we've got to deal with in real sense. But we have programs in the country that we are saying, how do we absorb the young people who are being qualified every other year? We're discussing, even looking at the statistics of the number of young people who qualify, but the number of jobs that are available. These are matters we're trying to address, and we are very conscious of the fact that we have raised, and we are making a lot of effort to address it.
Mr. President, I know that South Africa is one of the countries with the highest expenditures for education. Now, I'm also very proud that we achieved here some progress, because the World Economic Forum runs a big initiative on the skills for the future. What skills do we really need? And among the 20 very concrete initiatives, action-oriented initiatives is one, how to create the skills for Africa, which we need not today, which we need tomorrow. And I just add one point. When we look at the fourth industrial revolution, I have coined the note or the saying, the future doesn't belong to capitalism. The future belongs to talentism. Those countries which have the best talents will succeed best in the future. We have time for a second or third question. Who would like to take the floor?
Thank you. My name is Amanda Archibong, and I'm a global shaper from the Abuja Hub. President Zuma, just to ask you, as we have regional hegemons, Nigeria and South Africa, and you rightly mentioned the Agenda 2063. What role do you see our regional hegemons playing in ensuring that we do move to this agenda in a more inclusive way? So Nigeria and South Africa, carrying on the rest of the continent. Thank you.
Well, we've been discussing this not just between Nigeria and South Africa only, but from other countries and regions. How do we handle the issue of the pace towards the 2063 agenda? what are we doing as a countries? Of course, there could be the issue between two countries. If we talk about South Africa and Nigeria, we have relations, we have structured relations between the two countries. But I think what we have not done is to deal with the details of what do we do and priorities. What do we do as the two countries to work in such a way that we make the impact in the continent? I don't think we've succeeded to do that sufficiently, so that we are in a position to use the two countries. There has been, between Nigerians and South Africans, an acceptance of the fact that as two countries we need to do more than what we are doing. Yes, we are developing the relations steadily, but I don't think it is sufficient. That's a matter we need to look at. That's a matter I think the young people have to push us even more to ensure that we are able to deal with these matters, to help us also identify the critical elements of the economy that will make us to move forward. In other words, all of us, we should do so. But the effort that Africa is doing has been, for an example, as you know, Africa has 5 economic regions. And we have taken very deliberate decisions as the leadership in the continent to integrate these. The 3 of them are in the process very far, integrating, creating a common market, which is absolutely important, opening up more opportunities. We are in the process of discussing to actually integrate the whole 5. I think those are the efforts we are making to say, how do we, by 2063, how do we reach a point we want to have reached by that time? I think there is more prospects now than any other time, because Africans are working together. If we take, for an example, our acceptance and commitment to develop the infrastructure that connects us, that makes the movement of goods and people to be easy in the continent, is a very direct, important element to ensure that we are able to reach 2063 in a particular kind of fashion. We are discussing, for an example, the need to soften the borders so that the movement in Africa should not be difficult. Because this movement, these borders were not necessarily of our creation. This was done by other interests who wanted to separate us. So we've been moving to try to connect one another so that it is easy to move. There are plans even of working on a faster transport in the continent so that you can reach any corner at any given time. I think those efforts talk to the point you are raising. How much do we create the kind of quicker movement towards the agenda we have set for ourselves? I think we are better placed now than any other time before, but we are late. We are late because Africa has always been put in the back burner by the world. We are now saying that's why in my remarks I was talking about us determining our destination, ourselves, our friends and everybody else to come and partner with us in that process rather than being told what we need to do, what we need not to do. Because we believe it is us. And we are therefore banking a great deal on the young people who are being skilled today, who are being technologically trained, that they are going to help us in these very ambitious kind of projects we are putting in the continent. We believe that Africa is well placed today to move even faster than other regions, taking into account the global setting. So we think what we are doing is the right one. We need, of course, a number of things, resources, as well as more working together as a continent. We are ready to do so. There are leaders here from the continent who are part of very important elements economically. The president from Senegal, for an example, leads us in NEPAD, which discusses a lot of these matters. There are heads of states who are heading specific sectors, because we wanted to ensure that the political commitment is seen. And I think Africa is in a position that it has never been before in commitment to achieve Agenda 2063.
Mr. President, I think the presence of so many heads of states and government here in this room underline this engagement, this Pan-African engagement. We have maybe time for one short last question. I take someone out of the audience.
Hello, good morning everyone. My name is Daoud Vali. I'm a global shaper from the Maputo Hub, Mozambique. Thank you very much for your remarks, President Zuma and Professor Schwab. Yes, we are late and we as young people are impatient. My question to you, President Zuma, is how can we make Agenda 2063 closer? Because in 2063 I will be 76, my young daughter will be 46, and that's too far. How can we speed up decision-making process? How can we engage more young people? Because there has been a lot of talk in the past year, yet we are not represented in parliament, we are not represented in governments. When we try to protest peacefully, there is a lot of fear because our governments put the army and tanks on the streets, so we don't go to the streets to peacefully protest, and that's a real concern from where I'm coming from in Mozambique, but I believe also in other African countries. So how can we speed up the process? That's my question.
I like it when you mention the years. When I joined the struggle, I was very young. I was less than 20 years. I'm now 75, just 1 year that you talk about 76. And here I am. I've seen the West and I've participated to shape it. And I'm now participating in reconstruction. I think it is the determination of the youth that is absolutely important. Not to believe that for us to succeed, it is other people who must do it. The youth itself must participate very seriously to change the future for themselves, together with the elder ones. That's what we have done. And at times, some of us never thought we'd be free at our lifetime. The critical point is that you are able to identify your destination and commitment, and you then work on what is it that, or kind of vehicles and methods and whatever. How then do you shape the future? How do you participate in it? Because you can't say 2063 will be there and you sleep and the following day we are there. It needs us to work harder. I think the relevant part of your question is, what do we do? What is the role that the youth itself should play? We are talking about skilling, for an example. In other words, the youth must participate in preparing itself to participate in the process. But I must say, if you say that you are afraid of the tanks and what you call, that is an unfortunate one. That's an unfortunate one. I think there is a process of involving the young people in the participation. In governments, for an example, in organizations, they are participating. Not long time ago, I had a reshuffle of government. I put a lot of young people, particularly implementing that idea. And of course, some people will have different views. That's democracy. But the reality is that we should not just talk about the youth participation, we should involve them. And I've seen them in a number of governments, coming in a number of organizations. I think it's a question of us harmonizing our thinking and therefore making our plans and therefore having programs to implement. Partly is to involve. So once the youth, one or two or more, are put in very serious responsible positions, they must demonstrate, use their energy, their imagination and their innovation. They will reach the point. I'm convinced. And if at all there is a problem of governments that are frustrating and making the youth not to participate, I think those matters are important to come. In the recent past, in the AU summit, the youth has been given a space to come and participate. We must hear more of such problems so that we can talk and correct those problems. Because for us to move forward, we need that energy, we need that imagination, and that's why some of us act the way we do, because we are looking forward, we are not looking backwards. And that is beginning to happen. And I would in fact love to engage you because I've got my colleagues so that you can indicate which are these countries that are still rolling tanks and soldiers. I'm very keen to know so that we can talk to our brothers who do so. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, just one added note. It's not just the engagement of the young people into society. I think it's also a big challenge for the older generation to act as role models in terms of the values for the young generation. That's the basis for mutual trust.
Professor, I totally agree. That's why I've put young people to show what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I would come back to my three values which I presented. And if you all go out of this room committed to those three values, we will have a great future. I just repeat, respect the individual and global diversity. Serve the society or you belong to and not your self-interests. And finally, act as a trustee for the next generation. Thank you again, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And as it is the tradition at our regional summits, we always honor those at the end who really work on the ground to improve the state of the world, who take personal sacrifices to increase welfare of many, many people. So I may ask the chair of the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship to join us here at the stage.
New civilization where we won't have that. It's not money obsession, it's about human beings.
Never ever have we been in such a need for social entrepreneurs to work in partnership with governments, NGOs, and civil society at large.
Having access to the World Economic Forum for any social entrepreneur gives us a greater chance to scale our impact.
We're able to connect with people from all over the world who are focused on the same issues.
It's all about reaching more people and affecting change.
We have enough technology, we have enough ability, enough innovative capacity to create the world that you feel comfortable with, you feel proud of creating that world.
President Zuma, distinguished heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. During the last 3 days, nearly 100 outstanding social entrepreneurs from every region in the world gathered here in Durban for the largest summit of the Schwab Foundations in more than a decade. They were joined by young global leaders and global shapers to collaborate on projects, mentor each other, and identify opportunities to jointly solve the urgent problems of our times. With the Social Entrepreneurship Award, the Schwab Foundation wants to recognize and celebrate social innovation, inclusiveness, and social progress. The social entrepreneurs who are participating in this meeting have all been distinguished for their contribution to improve the lives of thousands, if not millions, of people. They work in diverse fields and are pioneers in developing new methods to tackling malnutrition, to improve education and health care, inventing new technologies for people with disabilities, for preventive medical care, research in biodiversity and organic agriculture, and I could go on and on. In short, they all have the overreaching goal of reducing poverty. Social inclusion and poverty alleviation remain high on the agenda of Africa. Often, social entrepreneurs step in to fill the gaps in service delivery and social programs to low-income communities. They do this through their innovative business models in areas such as health, digital technology, and financial services. They are vibrant catalysts in the growth of the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Africa and at the wake of the fourth industrial revolution. There's a lot of talk about recently that we must develop new narratives, positive narratives. The social entrepreneurs have exceptional stories to tell. Today we have the pleasure of awarding 3 social entrepreneurs for Africa 2017. And I would like now to ask each awardee to join me on stage when I call their name. Sonkita Ponte. Sonkita Conte, his organization Namati works in Sierra Leone. They train and support local paralegals to assist the millions of people worldwide that live outside the protection of the law. Focusing on 3 main justice challenges: land and environment, access to decent health care, and citizenship rights, Namati has helped over 54,000 clients in 8 countries. Keller Rinaldo. His organization Zipline works in Rwanda. Zipline is the first company to use drones, which they call zips, to deliver vaccines, medicine, and blood transfusions for use in rural Rwanda. A zip zooms along 100 kilometers per hour, dropping off its cargo with a small parachute. Zipline is partnering with the Rwandan government in 20 hospitals and health centers, providing urgent medical supplies for millions of people. Dale Lewis. Organization Komako, Zambia. If farmers could make a decent living, poaching would decline. That's the theory behind Komako, which has virtually eradicated poaching across 1 million hectares by giving farmers education and access to premium markets for products like peanut butter, rice, and honey. To date, Komako has registered 140,000 farmers committed to conservation farming practices and wildlife preservation. I would also like to acknowledge our 2017 awardee, Raj Panjabi, the CEO of Last Mile Health in Liberia. Unfortunately, Raj could not be here with us this week, but we want to recognize the tremendous work of Last Mile Health in pioneering a community health worker model to reach people living more than 5 kilometers away from their nearest clinics across in rural Liberia. A final word to thank our partner for South Africa, Dr. Precious Moloi Motsepe and Patrice Motsepe and the Motsepe Foundation for their enthusiastic support and contribution. Thank you. Can I ask now all the social entrepreneurs to stand up so that we can see you? Thank you for your engagement and dedication to humanity. Thank you. This concludes our opening session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.